Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. In this lesson, inshallah, we'll be going through and analyzing the poem The Divine Image by William Blake, which is part of his collection of poems known as Songs of Innocence. In this poem, a speaker proclaims that God's mercy, pity, peace, and love appear on earth in the human form. Because God's gentleness and kindness express themselves through humankind, therefore every person has a bit of God in them. And this, the speaker of the poem argues throughout the poem. It should create a feeling of connection and unity between all the people. This is the basic message, basic idea of this poem. Okay, with this, we are going to begin with line by line explanation. First stanza: to mercy, pity, peace, and love, all praise their distress, and to these virtues of delight return their thanks. So, the divine image seems deceptively simple at its start. The first lines here feel like a Christian hymn. Uh, Christian hymn is a religious song. So they declare that everyone in distress prays to qualities which are often associated with God. Fancy qualities in mercy, pity, peace, and love. And then that they thank those same qualities for their good fortune. So the shape of these lines also feels pretty traditional. What are they doing? They are using common meter. Common meter क्या होता है? Which we did in the class as well. It is alternating lines of iambic tetrameter and iambic trimeter. Okay, and with this, it uses a very musical rhyme scheme, which is A B C D. This first stanza could come straight from a nursery rhyme. Might look like a very clear nursery rhyme. The ballad, मतलब this poem can be looked as a ballad as well. तो भाई ballad क्या है? The ballad is one of the oldest poetic forms in English. The simplest way to think of a ballad is as a song or poem that tells a story and has a bouncy rhythm and rhyme scheme. Traditional ballads are written in a meter called common meter, जिसकी हम बात कर रहे हैं. तो इस common meter की वजह से it seems that it can come under ballad as well. Okay, so traditional ballads, because they are written in common meter, they consist of alternated lines of iambic tetrameter and lines of iambic trimeter. So, in other words, the speaker of this poem is working right with the reader's expectations, opening with some familiar, comforting rhythms, shapes, and ideas. But this poem by William Blake, uh, uh, मतलब, we think that it seems quite traditional looking at the क्या कहते हैं, the rhythm, the rhyme scheme, and the familiar Christian ideas. But बात समझने की ये है कि this poem is going to turn out to be quite complex, which is not going to be anything traditional. सही है जी? तो Blake's songs of innocence and experience, they express his fiery, his prophetic, and his unorthodox vision of Christianity. तो ऐसा ना लगे कि भाई ये क्रिश्चियनिटी को फेवर कर रहा है, but he is defining or giving a new definition to the real Christian. जैसे हम कहते हैं ना कि भाई religion is name of peace, and there are people who divide the nations divide people through religion. So this suggests that bhai, over here also he is not actually favoring the fundamental, the radical Christianity that was imposed over there. Rather, he is raising questions. So this poem will use a very deceptive, gentle shape of a nursery rhyme to deliver a huge, a revolutionary message. God, to this poem speaker, isn't just a merciful, pitying, peaceful, loving person, loving leader, loving dad in the clouds, but God is right here on the earth all the time. and actually he is embodied by every person who is alive. Okay, so इससे हमें क्या पता चला that plague rejected the idea of a separate and distant God जो कि दूर आसमानों में बैठा हुआ है और उसने दुनिया में इंसानों को दूर अपने से किया हुआ है, ऐसा नहीं। According to him, God is present in all the human beings. So presenting this idea in a form as simple as a nursery rhyme, the speaker is actually offering a challenge. क्या challenge? That this belief, he's trying to say, is in fact so pure, so instinctive and fundamental that I can sing it like a child. मतलब मेरा बिलीफ इवन तो लगता क्या है कि आप लोगों की रिलीजियस अंडरस्टैंडिंग से हटकर है, लेकिन फॉर मी इट इज सो सिंपल दैट आई कैन सिंग इट इन द फॉर्म ऑफ अ चाइल्डिश सॉन्ग। ओके, आई होप यू अंडरस्टूड दिस। With this, we move on to the second stanza. For mercy, pity, peace, and love is God our Father dear, and mercy, pity, peace, and love is man, his child, and care. So, in the second stanza, the speaker begins to unveil a more fundamental purpose of writing this poem. Yeah, that mercy, pity, peace, and love are God. Okay, and the speaker says again that they are God, but they are also man. They are also humankind. They are also mankind. And if that's true, the next logical step is that God and man are in some way or another identical. Now, take a look at the way the poem uses parallelism in these lines, which is the second stanza. Okay, क्या है भाई? For mercy, pity, peace and love. पहली लाइन और तीसरी लाइन क्या है? एंड मर्सी पिटी पीस एंड लव। तो बिल्कुल पैरेललिज्म हो गया, बिल्कुल एक जैसी हो गई। सो इन मिररिंग द फर्स्ट कपलेट, ओके, जैसे कि फॉर मर्सी पीस पिटी ये इससे कनेक्ट हो गया, और ये इज गॉड इज मैन आवर फादर डियर हिज चाइल्ड एंड केयर। ओके, बिल्कुल पैरेललिज्म में एक जैसा स्ट्रक्चर है। तो इन मिररिंग द फर्स्ट कपलेट विद द सेकंड, द स्पीकर सजेस्ट that God and man are somehow the same. So man is a reflection of God and God is a reflection of man, reflection of each other. So this is close to a very traditional Christian idea as well, but it is a different variation on it. लग तो रहा है कि ये बिल्कुल वही आइडिया, लेकिन उसकी थोड़ी सी डिफरेंट वेरिएशन है। What is that idea? What traditional idea जिसके ये बहुत क्लोज है? वो है idea of Christ. क्या? The idea of God as a father and man as his child. It is an allusion to the idea in which Christ lives on earth as a human and is God's son, but he is also mysteriously God himself. So God और son का connection हो गया. Okay, but the speaker definitely isn't only referring to Christ as an isolated figure here. ये कह रहे हैं कि सिर्फ क्राइस्ट का मामला नहीं है। In fact, he is claiming, he's trying to say that all of mankind is in some way just the same as Christ. So, in other words, to this speaker, all of humanity is in some way, all of the humanity in some way, what does it do? It embodies God. It is an imitation of God. इट इज अ रिप्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ गॉड। और ये हम तो इस्लाम में भी कहते हैं कि इंसान जो है और मुसलमान जो है तौर पे वो क्या है, इस दुनिया में अल्लाह ताला का खलीफा है। खलीफा क्या होता है? रिप्रेजेंटेशन। So that is possible, the speaker says, because God isn't just a separate figure who possesses the qualities of mercy, pity, peace, and love. ये वाली qualities तो are found in man, mankind as well. तो और दूसरी बात क्या है हो गई कि गॉड इज इन एनी डिफरेंट फिगर, सिंगल फिगर जिसके अंदर ये क्वालिटीज प्रेजेंट है, बल्कि गॉड हिमसेल्फ इज दीज थिंग। गॉड हिमसेल्फ इज दीज क्वालिटी, जो मैंने क्लास में भी समझाई थी कि गॉड हैज बिकम अ पर्सोनिफिकेशन ऑफ मर्सी, पिटी, पीस एंड लव। तो गॉड इज दीज थिंग। ओके ना, इट्स नॉट दैट गॉड पोजेसेस दीज थिंग्स। क्या है? लिटरली ही इज दोज थिंग्स। So wherever one finds mercy, pity, peace and love, one would be directly encountering God. So अगर यही mercy, pity, peace and love, if you're going to find in man, so in a way you are encountering God because these are the qualities of God. सही है जी? With this we move on to the third stanza. For mercy has a human heart, pity a human face, and love the human form divine, and he is the human dress. So, in this stanza, the speaker will investigate that how God is thus embodied through man. The speaker assigns mercy, pity, peace, and love to different parts of the human body to, in essence, of personifying God. So God's love is showed when people are kind and loving to each other. But the speaker seems to mean something a lot deeper. Kaise? Even as these ideas are presented in the form of metaphors, there is the sense that the speaker really, literally, truly means what he is saying. Mercy, pity, peace, and love, they have a body genuine. They genuinely have a body. कैसे भाई? Now take a look at the way the speaker matches aspects of God with aspects of body. जैसे कि mercy has a human heart, pity has a human face, love has a form, love is presented in human form divine, and peace is the human face. क्या है भाई? It makes sense to associate mercy with human heart. बहुत ही क्लियर है, ये सबसे आसान कनेक्शन है भाई, हार्ट का ही ताल्लुक मर्सी से. so it makes quite a lot of sense that mercy is connected with human heart. क्यों? Because the heart is so often seen as the symbolic seat of feelings. Like mercy is forgiving tenderness. जैसे कि मर्सी का काम क्या है? टेंडरनेस, फॉरगिवनेस. ऐसे ही हार्ट के अंदर भी ये इमोशनल फीलिंग्स होती है. Likewise, connecting pity with human face, it suggests that pity या फिर sympathy for those who suffer is to do a lot with communication. Communication में क्या क्या आएगा? Recognizing that somebody is in pain, hearing that somebody is pain, talking to other people who are in pain. All these things a person can only do when he has a face, and he has to do all of these things through his face. That's why pity has been connected. A lot of emotions of pity and sympathy, they are shown through the face of a human being. That's why it is connected with human face. अच्छा जी, अभी थोड़ी सी important बात आ गई. The speaker assigns love to the human form divine. So love takes on not a particular human form, but a sort of typical or ideal human form which is going to be divine. कैसे? So love is somehow expressed with the whole body, okay, and not just the whole body, but everybody. ओके, यानी कि हम मैन नहीं बोल रहे इधर, हम ह्यूमन बोल रहे. यानी कि एवरी मैन इज अ ह्यूमन. ओके, तो ह्यूमन फॉर्म का क्या मतलब हो गया? द होल ऑफ ह्यूमैनिटी. तो लव इज विद हियर इज बीइंग कनेक्टेड विद द होल ऑफ ह्यूमैनिटी. यानी कि नॉट ओनली द बॉडी ऑफ अ ह्यूमन बीइंग बट एवरीबॉडी. ओके, so love is expressed through something which is uh, which is क्या कहते हैं, which can be said as a shape of the whole humanity. ओके, तो लव का क्या मतलब होता है? कनेक्शन. कनेक्शन किसके दरमियान होगा? डिफरेंट ह्यूमन बींग्स के दरमियान होगा. तो व्हेन लव इज बीइंग कनेक्टेड विद द होल ऑफ ह्यूमन बॉडी, यानी कि होल ह्यूमैनिटी, तो इसका क्या मतलब हुआ? दैट love over here is being talking about communication between the different people, the emotions of love between the people, the emotion of care between the humanity. अब आ जाते हैं चौथी चीज पे, पीस, द ह्यूमन ड्रेस. तो पीस gets assigned to the human dress. So of course there is no single human dress. People wear all kinds of dresses, and perhaps that is exactly what the speaker is trying to tell us. Dress here might suggest behavior. Everybody puts on different kinds of clothes, yani कि everybody possesses or puts on different kind of behavior. The way people present themselves to the world. So in other words, peace might be less an attitude or way of being, and it would be more an outward action. यानी कि peace human dress है, यानी कि how a person dress himself, यानी कि how a person behaves himself. जिसका ताल्लुक डायरेक्टली किसके साथ है? आई होप समझ में आया होगा आपको. So the speaker is trying to say that to do that every day people embody God. कैसे? By enacting mercy, pity, peace, and love through their own lives, through their bodies, their own behavior. So the speaker is suggesting that love, for instance, is a kind of transcendent quality, यानी कि एक जगह से दूसरी तरफ चला जाना, transcendent. So if love is name is the name of connection between two human beings. तो एक ह्यूमन बीइंग से गुजर के आगे दूसरे ह्यूमन बीइंग तक जा रहा है ना. ओके, तो ये क्या हो जाएगी, ये ट्रांसेंडेंट क्वालिटी है लव की. और इस क्वालिटी की वजह से ये लव क्या करेगा, इट इज गोइंग टू यूनाइट ऑल ह्यूमंस सिंपली बिकॉज दे शेयर इन द ह्यूमन फॉर्म डिवाइन, यानी कि ह्यूमैनिटी. हर ह्यूमैनिटी के अंदर हर इंसान का हिस्सा है. तो एवरीबडी हैज अ बॉडी, और वो बॉडी जो है हर इंसान की, वो पूरी ह्यूमैनिटी को अगर एक चीज बना दी जाए तो हर इंसान का एक पार्ट बन जाएगा. तो बॉडी इज somehow an expression of shared love in their in exact existence. अच्छा जी, next stanza. Then every man of every clime that prays in his distress, prays to human form divine, love, mercy, pity, peace. चलिए, so coming back to the idea of distress praise in stanza one. Stanza one के अंदर distress praise था. हाँ, बोल रहे होगे तुम लोग. ये देखो, to mercy, pity, peace and love, all pray in their distress. तो डिस्ट्रेस होगा तो क्या होगा, प्रेयर होगा. और हर बंदा बिलोंगिंग टू डिफरेंट नेचर्स, वो क्या करेगा, हर बंदा ही प्रे करेगा डिस्ट्रेस के अंदर. वो फिरौन हो या बहुत कोई नेक इंसान हो. ओके, तो नाउ ही इज कमिंग बैक टू द आइडिया ऑफ प्रेयर्स विच वाज प्रेजेंटेड इन स्टैंजा 1. ओके, स्टैंजा 4, ये कौन सा स्टैंडा है, ये स्टैंडा 4 है. तो स्टैंजा 4 के अंदर द आइडिया ऑफ डिस्ट्रेस इज बीइंग रिपीटेड व्हिच वाज फर्स्ट प्रेजेंटेड इन स्टैंजा. ओके, इस रिपीटेशन को क्या कहते हैं, इस रिपीटेशन को कहते हैं कियास्मस. इस रिपीटेशन को क्या कहते हैं, ये कहते हैं, सॉरी, कियास्मस. ओके, chiasmus क्या है? Chiasmus is a figure of speech in which the grammar of one phrase is inverted in the following phrase. यानी कि एक फ्रेज में एक बात की गई तो दूसरे फ्रेज में वैसी ही बात कर दी जाएगी लेकिन घुमा फिरा के. तो in a way that two key concepts from the original phrase they reappear in the second phrase but in an inverted one. Okay, तो क्या हुआ, तो the repetition of distress in stanza 4, it reveals that the poem has been a kind of a long chiasmus. कैसे? Moving from prayer present in stanza 1 and back to the prayer again in stanza 4. So here the speaker repeats language from the first stanza, repeating to the idea of praying and distress present. Okay, na? Into the fourth stanza. So the poem also develops that idea. सिर्फ यहाँ पे बात खत्म नहीं हुई. The poem develops the idea further. Since God is mercy, pity, peace, and love, and since those qualities are embodied in humanity, everyone who prays in the speaker's view is praying to God in the human and not God somewhere else. They, in the first stanza, the speaker said that all pray to mercy, pity, and God, and here the speaker makes the same point even more emphatically. कैसे? कैसे? ऐसे. Then every man of every clime. देखो, एवरी रिपीट हो रहा है एक ही लाइन के अंदर दो. इसको क्या कहेंगे, डायाकोप कहेंगे. क्या कहेंगे, रिपीटिशन ऑफ अ सेम वर्ड इन अ सिंगल लाइन, यानी कि डायाकोप. इस रिपीटिशन के थ्रू, एक मिनट, हाँ जी, इस रिपीटिशन के थ्रू ये पॉइंट को इंतहाई इम्पैटिकली प्रेजेंट कर रहा है. कैसे? तो ऑल जो था, किधर था ऑल, इधर जो था, ऑल प्रे इन देयर डिस्ट्रेस, ये ऑल किस में चेंज हो गया है, एवरी में चेंज हो गया है. तो ऑल हियर बिकम्स एवरी मैन ऑफ एवरी काइंड. इट इज अ स्ट्रॉन्गर एंड मोर स्पेसिफिक स्टेटमेंट. कैसे भैया, ऑफ द सेम आइडिया. कैसे? इट इज एज इफ द स्पीकर इज रियली लीनिंग ऑन द वर्ड एवरी. एवरी स्पेशल थिंग है यहाँ पे, and especially on the idea that people make the same prayer in every clime, यानी कि in every part of the world, people belonging to different and every parts of the world, यानी कि every man present in every part of the world is making a prayer. Okay, So this poem's idea, in other words, it isn't isolated to a single group of people or single nation. So God to the speaker is universal. Universal. Since people embody God, so God is wherever people are. So again, this speaker seems to be reinterpreting a traditional Christian idea, kya? That the human form divine might easily be a description of Christ, whose form was both human and divine. But the Christ is a kind of a universal Christ speaker के लिए, इस poet के लिए, made up of every single person. सही है ना? So it becomes a very beautiful shade embodiment of God. तो पहले क्या था, सिर्फ क्राइस्ट थे एम्बॉडीमेंट ऑफ गॉड। यहाँ पे इसने क्या किया, एवरी ह्यूमन को एम्बॉडीमेंट बना दिया है किसकी, गॉड। अब हम आ जाते हैं फाइनल सेंस पे। ऑल मस्ट लव द ह्यूमन फॉर्म इन ईदर टर्क और जू, where mercy, love, and pity dwell, there God is dwelling too. So the poem concludes with a kind of a moral. क्या moral है भाई? To love God, the speaker says, people have to love the human form in all its appearances. चाहे वो हीदन हो, टर्क हो या जीव हो या क्रिश्चियन। So this kind of love and this kind of God can never be restricted by religious boundaries. The heathen, the Turk, the Jew, they embody God just as much as Christians embody the God. देखो ये पोयम क्रिश्चियंस के लिए लिख रहा था, तो इसने इधर क्रिश्चियंस का नाम नहीं लिया। इसने क्या बोला कि क्रिश्चियंस तो समझते ही अपने आप को एम्बॉडीमेंट ऑफ गॉड, तो उसने बोला कि भाई सिर्फ क्रिश्चियंस नहीं, हीदन टर्को जू भी है एम्बॉडीमेंट ऑफ गॉड। यानी कि वो लोग जो ना ये वाले रिलीजन रखते हो, यानी कि ना ही मुसलमान हो, ज्यू हो या क्रिश्चियन हो, इसके अलावा भी दीन वाले, along with these, सब के सब क्या है, embodiment of God. So this phrasing makes it clear that the speaker has a specifically Christian audience in mind. Blake often criticized institutional Christianity. He used to criticize what he felt were joyless, reductive, and false ideas about God, sin, and self. So this poem then might be meant as a corrective to the limitations of conventional religion या फिर conventional piety. Blake believed that everything that lives is holy, सिर्फ Christian नहीं. And this poem, with its transcendent human form divine, is just one way of explaining why. सही है जी, आई होप समझ में आया होगा। इधर से अब हम आ जाते हैं इस पोयम की किस पे भाईजान, थीम पे। तो एक ही थीम है, विच इज द डिविनिटी एंड यूनिटी ऑफ ह्यूमनकाइंड। बहुत सिंपल है। द पोयम स्पीकर सेज दैट ह्यूमैनिटी वाज मेड इन गॉड्स ओन इमेज, but that does not mean that the human shape physically resembles God. Rather, it means that people embody God's powerful qualities, God's powerful goodness. क्या चीज आएंगे उसमें, mercy, pity, peace and love. They are expressed on earth through people. लेकिन किसी qualities है, God की। And this connection between humanity and God also connects human beings to each other. So every person expresses goodness of God, and every living person is thus holy. Okay, if he has these qualities in it. So all people, whatever their background, are united by their shared divinity. समझ में आई, यानी कि ह्यूमन। इधर से हम आ जाते हैं पोएटिक डिवाइस पे, जिसमें सबसे पहली पोएटिक डिवाइस क्या है, अल्यूजन। अल्यूजन किसका है भैया, बिब्लिकल बुक ऑफ जेनेसिस के अंदर। द पोएम का जो टाइटल है ना, द डिवाइन इमेज, it is an allusion to the biblical book of Genesis in which God is said to create humankind. God ने क्या बोला है, He has बोला है कि मैंने ये humankind बनाई है, क्या, in His image according to His likeness, यानी कि humankind को मैंने अपने जैसा बनाया है according to His likeness, जैसा मैं चाहूँ। Okay, so being made in God's divine image in this poem's view doesn't mean that God looks like person, balki it means that God is people. His mercy, pity, peace, and love embodied both in individual human bodies and in a great shared human form. So wherever these dwell, God is dwelling too. है ना. Wherever these qualities, mercy, pity, peace, and love are dwelling, the God also dwells in those people. Because mercy, pity, peace, and love are what God is. Next literary device is Bhaiya parallel. Parallel. ठीक है जी. पैरलिज्म कहाँ है? पैरलिज्म यहाँ है. For mercy, pity, peace, and love is God or Father dear. And mercy, pity, peace, and love. Parallelism आ गया. Is God, is man. Parallelism आ गया. Okay? Child in here. So parallelism helps the speaker to explain the poem's big idea that God is embodied in humanity through mercy, pity, peace, and love. For instance, take a look at the way that parallelism shapes in this second stanza. ये जो हमने जब book किया. These similarly constructed lines express the speaker's striking point. Yeah, that God and humanity are exactly the same. Okay. Next little device is repetition. Baijan, repetition helps to give this poem its musical and nursery rhyme like so. Throughout the poem, the speaker insistently returns to the words mercy, pity, peace. All four of these words appear in almost every stanza. So this repetition makes these qualities feel like the poem's backbone, the structure that holds everything else together. Saidi, so the speaker uses repetition in the form of chiasmus also to structure the poem's argument. The section begins with the idea that people in distress pray to mercy, pity, peace, and love. However, when this idea returns in line 14, it has gained new meaning. Yeah, the poem reveals that praying to these virtues is actually praying to the human form of divine. So finally, the speaker's closing lines, they also use a polyptoton. Polyptoton क्या होता है? When अपना क्या कहते हैं? Two words are क्या कहते हैं repeated, uh, लेकिन both those words are not exactly the same, but one of them belongs to the core of the first word. यानी कि डुवेलिंग के अंदर कोर वर्ड क्या है? डुवेल. तो कोर वर्ड्स तो यहाँ पे रिपीट हुए ना. तो दिस इज नोन एज पॉलिप्टोट. ये भी क्या होती है? ये भी क्या होती है? एक लिखी डिवाइस होती है. और ये मैंने पहले कई दफे पढ़ाई है, लेकिन इंशाल्लाह अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह माशाल्लाह आप में से किसी को भी याद नहीं. बहरहाल, तो the speaker's closing lines use polyptoton on the words dwell and dwelling to underline the point the poem has been making throughout. Wherever mercy, pity, peace, and love will dwell, यानी कि live, उस dwelling यानी कि इंसान के अंदर कौन होगा? खुदा होगा. Okay, with this we move on to the next literary device, which is metaphor. देखो, बात तो इसने मेटाफर के तरीके से की है, लेकिन एक्चुअली वो क्या कह रहा है? वो बोल रहा है कि भाई मैं ये मेटाफोरिकली नहीं कह रहा हूँ, मैं तो लिटरली कह रहा हूँ. ओके, क्या? The whole poem could be read as a complex extended metaphor in which the human form is used as an image of God. However, William Blake meant this idea literally. Blake actually believed that God lived in every single human being and that all people were part of God. However, it is still worth looking at the metaphorical possibilities. फिर भी हम देख लेते हैं कि भाई मेटाफोर को उसने किस तरीके से यूज किया. क्या? इसलिए to see what they reveal about how Blake thought about relationship of humanity to the divine. जैसे कि ये वाली लाइंस को हम देख लें. For mercy has a human heart, pity a human face, love human form divine, and peace the human dress. So either the speaker personifies each godly virtue and also connects them to a specific part of the human. ये connection क्या है? सारे metaphorical. Next literary device is alliteration. Much of its alliteration is actually a part of repetition. जहाँ जहाँ पे मुझे सेम क्या कहते हैं वर्ड्स रिपीट हो रहे हैं, ये वाले मर्सी, पिटी, पीस एंड लव, तो वहां वहां पे पी की जो है एलिट्रेशन आ So because the words या फिर phrase mercy, pity, peace and love appear over and over, so does the repeated P sound. So alliteration strengthens the effect of repetition, drawing even more attraction to the poem's central concern. सही है जी. एक और भी इसके अंदर है ये वाली Mercy had a human heart. ये भी क्या है alliteration है. This introduces the image of the godly virtues as part of the human body with a gentle sound. Sound किसका है? H का है, which is very soft sound, sighing sound. So this suits the very gentle quality of mercy. Next is the meter and rhyme. अच्छा जी, मीटर पे आ जाते हैं. पहले मैंने बताया था बिल्कुल शुरू में दैट डिवाइन इमेज यूजेस कॉमन मीटर. कॉमन मीटर क्या होता है? द बैक एंड फोर्थ पैटर्न ऑफ आयम्बिक टेट्रामीटर एंड आयम्बिक टेट्रामीटर. ओके ना, ये टेट्रामीटर है, चार इसके अंदर आयम्स है, इसके अंदर तीन आयम्स. चार फीट है, इसके अंदर तीन. तो कॉमन मीटर इज ऑल्सो ट्रेडिशनली यूज इन हिम्स. हिम्स क्या होती है? रिलीजियस सॉन्ग या फिर अ सॉन्ग और अ पोयम टू प्रेज गॉड एंड गॉड. ओके, तो अब ये बात क्लियर नहीं है. ये मीटर जो कि हिम के लिए यूज होता है, तो ये पता चल जाएगा ना हमको इसके थ्रू कि ये पोयम भी क्या है, एक तरीके से हिम ही है. तो देर इज सर्टेनली अ लॉट ऑफ पावरफुल रिलीजियस सेंटिमेंट एंड इमोशंस प्रेजेंट इन दिस पोयम. सही जी. अब आ जाते हैं हम राइम्स की. Rhyme scheme, जैसे कि like a lot of poems written in common meter, the rhyme scheme of this poem is also ABCD. These rhymes might feel very simple, लेकिन आपको बताऊं, there is some kind of complex nature which is present in this poem, in this rhyme. कैसे? Now have a look at the rhymes present over here. ठीक है जी. Climb and divine, distress and peace. So this stanza essentially follows the ABCD. It is also doing something more complicated. The B rhyme, ये A है तो ये B है, distress और peace. ये जो B rhyme है, distress और peace, which would usually be perfect rhymes in the pattern of such poems. These are not perfect rhymes, rather they are slant rhymes. The perfect rhymes वो होता है जो कि बिल्कुल मैच करता है ना. जैसे कि लव एंड डव, तो उसके अंदर ल का जो आखिरी कॉन्सोनेंट साउंड है वो भी मैच कर रहा है, और जो अपना वावल साउंड है वो भी मैच कर रहा है. डिस्ट्रेस के और पीस के अंदर आखिरी तो साउंड मैच कर रहे हैं, और लेकिन पिछला वाला नहीं कर. So these are not perfect rhymes, rather they are known as slant rhymes. Slant is करते हैं ना, so these are known as slant. Okay, they are sharing a sibilant consonant sound, but using slightly different vowel sound. And at a second class, A और C को भी अगर हम देखें, climb and demand, they are also slant rhymes too. Okay, they share an assonant long sound. है ना, climb and divine. लेकिन भैया का जो कॉन्स्टेंट है वो तो देख लीजिए जरा. हम्म एम और एन. So linking similar but different sounds across the stanza, the speaker mirror the connections between every man of every client, every man of that these lines describe. People too are similar across their difference. देखो डिस्ट्रेस और पीस, क्लाइम और डिवाइन सिमिलर लग रहा है. ओके ना, तो उनकी गॉडलीनेस में तो वो सेम होंगे, लेकिन बिकॉज दे बिलोंग टू डिफरेंट क्लाइंट्स, डिफरेंट नेशंस, तो ऐसा तो नहीं है ना कि बिल्कुल ही सेम होंगे. थोड़ी थोड़ी चेंजेस उनके अंदर होंगी, जैसे थोड़े थोड़े डिफरेंस क्लाइम और डिवाइन में है, डिस्ट्रेस और पीस में है. आई होप भैया आप लोगों को ये रिलेशन होगा. With this, we end this poem. Feel free to ask questions if any. Jazakallah.